We have our usual bookworm and book critic and book expert with us, Audrey, in the studio. But we're going to be looking at a book today called The Chronicles of High School by author Dr. Msongelwa. Let me tell you about Manners. He's a holder of a PhD in cultural studies. He has 6 other books that include New Trends in History, a competence-based approach to regional history, Mastery to a Level History, Zimbabwe's Hidden Heritage, Exploration of Ancient Sun in Zimbabwe, Towards Your Destiny and Right Steps. And currently he's president of History, Teachers of Zimbabwe, and also youth coach. Audrey, welcome to Morning Rush, as usual, of course.
Good morning, and
good morning. Okay, hang on. This guy, Manners, is a history buff.
Yes,
right? Now
is.
He's writing a Chronicles of the High School, which is looking at counseling and offers advice to secondary and high school pupils. Interesting. But anyway, tell us about this book. It just sounds fascinating.
It is. I actually think he says it's for high school and tertiary students. I actually think we need to include the junior school students.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some of the things mentioned, they're already starting early. Like there's a whole chapter on do's and don'ts on social media. You've got kids in grade 4 who are on IG.
I like that. I noticed that. I think that's really good.
Yes.
Because, I mean, even adults do silly things on social media. Kids are worse. And oof, I tell you what, it's a worry. But okay, but obviously, what is he doing? He's trying to guide or counsel students, because there also is an issue there about drugs, correct? And I know, of course, we do have a huge drug problem.
We do have a drug problem, and for him, it's more relevant because he's been an educator for most of his life. And I even know someone was saying they were taught history by him in high school. So drugs, like the other week, we're talking about statistics as 67% of the children have sampled weed. Yeah, and then 45% have sampled the other white stuff.
Stuffy. Yeah.
So, I mean, 67%, that's shocking, yeah?
That's quite a lot,
That's quite a lot. So we need such books. We need such books. And I think this book should actually be like a handbook for all the students, all the schools, the guidance and counselors in the schools.
Like not just the secondary. It should be safe for everyone.
For everyone. And then the teachers, and then the parents, because there are also chapters where he mentions the parents. He's directing the teachings to the parents.
Right. Okay. Let's have a look at some of these chapters, and some of them are, you know, we can't go through 107 of them or whatever, but there's stuff here that matters. Like, for example, fleshly desires, because of course, kid pregnancies and how you handle unprotected sex and so on and so forth. I mean, these are real issues at school, and of course, not even today. Going back to our days when we were in schools, there were real issues then as well, weren't they?
Definitely, and I think I've seen the current textbooks. They are also talking about it to some extent, which is good, because I know with other parents, they've always left this to the school or to other people. But he's also addressing the parents on these particular subjects to say you need to teach them at home about these subjects, you know, the sex, fleshly issues that we're talking about. They need to be taught at home as well.
You know, there was a whole debate, I remember, about people saying you shouldn't teach sex education at school and so forth. I, of course, am the opposite. I think that the younger you start teaching them about these issues and about diseases and so forth, the better it is. But anyway, that's a debate for another day, I'm sure. What is this Valentine? I mean, you've read the book. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to read it. Valentine's Messages. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was so glad you mentioned this, because even in the corporate world, in any world, Valentine's is such a big deal.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's also a big deal at the schools, and even junior schools, like we're talking about. So he's telling the students that it doesn't matter whether you get a present or not. Some of the boys end up even stealing from their parents to get money to buy stuff for the girls, and it's all vanity, you know. You're just trying to impress someone for a day, then what? So he's saying even if you don't get anything, it's okay, and in any case, you're not even supposed to be having a relationship at that age.
Exactly. I must be honest, I haven't had a Valentine's present. Anyway, that's another story. Again, I've got too many other stories, don't I? Right, now, I want there's 3 chapters together, I think, that sort of makes sense. 1, examination tips, back to school, and more importantly, how can I motivate myself to study? I think that's an interesting, those 3 chapters.
Definitely. I think, like, back in the day, we always assumed that the teacher was supposed to give you marks, study time, and homework and whatnot. But he's saying you need to actually motivate yourself. Because more often, if you look even at our schools, the number of students in a class can be vast. So you need to actually encourage yourself to read, get a timetable for yourself, have a diary or a notebook where you actually block time to say, I'll be studying this, etc. And you find that kids who do that actually excel versus those who don't.
Yeah, because I must be honest, when you get to that age, you leave school, you go home, you'd rather turn on the television or get onto your gaming or their console or whatever you do nowadays as a kid rather than study. And of course, it hits you later on. I must be honest. Just reading some of the headings of the chapters makes me want to read this book because it's very interesting. I mean, there's issues here, for example, overcoming fear and anger problems and communication. I think that's one area, Audrey, that we forget about our kids because they are young adults. And I think a lot of people see them as children, but actually young adults, they have communication issues, they have mental health issues, they've got anger issues. I mean, they're like any human being, any adult, really. They just happen to be a bit younger than most adults under the age of 18. But talk to us about that, because that's important, and also what he suggests on what children should do to really hype up those skills, because they are skills. Communication is a skill, for example.
Yeah, and I like the way you tied it up all together, because he talks about mental health issues and he lists the issues that children are going through at home. It can be abuse, it can be poverty, it can be other social issues, bullying at school. So this then affects the communication. So you find this child is always going to be angry. He's going to be, reserved.
Not studying, of course, typical.
Yes, then it affects their so sometimes we're always quick to judge and label these kids and say they're bad apples and whatnot. But guess what? They could actually be having issues at home or even issues at school like bullying, and no one is addressing those issues.
Well, what does he propose? I'm sure does he come up with solutions for the kids themselves? I mean, like on mental health, I know that is always a tough one. Because, we always talk about communication and talking to people about it. But, of course, you've got to identify it first. Now, a lot of people don't get there. They think, oh, he's just a quiet, shy kid. He doesn't talk a lot. He likes to play on his own. Well, actually, he may actually have some issues.
Yes, so I think the onus, again, is on the parents and then also on the teachers' guidance and counseling. So I know most schools now have a separate department reserved for that, addressing these issues. And then also the children themselves. They don't have to then act out and take substances to dull this pain and whatnot. They have to deal with the problem and then talk about it. But one subject that I found interesting, and I need to bring this across to Zimbabwe, semester marriages. Parents, did you know there's such a thing called semester marriages? I think this is rife in
what?
Yes, tertiary.
What's a semester marriage? I'm married for one term.
Yes, or it can be so what is happening now is some children go to school without enough basics. So they'll then hook up with the guy, then they pay one room, like in university, and then the other money they can buy groceries and whatnot. So that's that's literally a semester marriage. They're hooking up, they're staying together.
I tell you what, there's so much in this book to see. There's other chapters, tattoos, writing on toilet walls, forgiveness. There's so much. And Audrey recommends it for everyone to read, not just students at secondary education, but also parents as well, bringing it to junior school. Audrey, what book you would recommend?
This book, everyone must read this book. Like I said, children, parents. You can get in touch with Dr. Manas Muso on Facebook, LinkedIn, and then he can hook you up a copy or with the
it's only $10, right?
Yes, $10. Chete.
I think it's worth it for $10. Yes. Audrey, thank you so much as usual for coming in so early to be our in morning rush book expert.
Konapo, Ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.